Imagine living in a place where the ocean decides whether you can leave your home, where the wind is so relentless it forces waterfalls to flow upside down, a place where the nearest neighbor is a storm, and the horizon offers absolutely no promises. Just 18 jagged fragments of volcanic rock thrown into the violent gray of the North Atlantic. Out here, halfway between Norway and Iceland, geography is not just a beautiful backdrop, it is the absolute authority. Welcome to the Faroe Islands. For centuries, human beings have pushed the boundaries of where life is possible. We conquer vast deserts, and we carve our way through impenetrable jungles. But you do not conquer the Faroe Islands. You survive them, you adapt to them, and you surrender to their rhythm. And for the few thousand souls who call this remote archipelago home, isolation is not a prison. It is a profound, quiet freedom. To stand here on the edge of these cliffs is to feel incredibly small and perfectly in place. Look closely at the coastline, rising hundreds of meters straight out of the boiling sea. They look like the shattered teeth of an ancient, forgotten world. The sea crashes against basalt walls that have stood in defiance for 50 million years. When you arrive here, the first thing you notice is the total absence of trees. There are no forests to break the wind, and no canopy to offer shelter. The wind simply does not allow them to grow. Any sapling foolish enough to take root is swiftly torn away by winter gales that routinely reach hurricane force. Instead, the landscape is painted in 100 shades of green and brown, a thick, spongy carpet of moss and grass that clings desperately to the rock. It is a landscape that plays tricks on the human mind. Take a walk to Survagsvatn. It is a massive, silent lake that seems to float hundreds of feet directly above the ocean. When you stand at the right angle, the calm waters of the lake look as though they are spilling straight out of the south sky into the Vatn waves below. It is an optical illusion created by nature itself, a surreal masterpiece that makes you realize, out here, the laws of physics seem to bend to the will of the islands. Tucked inside the deep fjords, hiding from the brutal elements, you will find them. Tiny clusters of human existence. Villages with populations you can count on two hands, where houses are painted in deep reds, mustard yellows, and obsidian blacks. But it is their roofs that immediately catch the eye. Heavy, sloping roofs made entirely of living grass. The grass isn't for beauty, it is a heavy anchor to keep the roof from tearing away in the dark of night. In the modern world, we build to stand out. We build skyscrapers of glass to defy gravity. Here, they build to blend in, to hide from the wind and to anchor themselves to the earth. The turf roof is a masterpiece of ancient engineering. The thick soil provides natural insulation against the biting cold, and over time, the roots weave together, creating a dense, heavy mat that holds the timber structure down when the storms howl. In the summer months, you might look up and see a sheep casually grazing on the roof of a family home. It is a beautiful harmony between human habitation and untamed nature. But this harmony was born out of absolute necessity. Take the village of Gásadalur. For generations, this tiny community was entirely cut off from the rest of the islands, surrounded by unscalable, jagged peaks on three sides, and a lethal sheer drop to the ocean on the fourth. There was no harbor. The waters were too violent, and boats could not dock against the vertical cliffs. To get a letter, to see a doctor, to buy flour or sugar, or to bury the dead, the villagers had to hike over the mountains. Imagine being the village postman 3 times a week, in the freezing rain, in the blinding snow, or in the thick, suffocating fog that descends so quickly you cannot see your own hands. He would carry heavy sacks of mail up a near vertical mountain path, over 400 meters high, walking mere inches from the edge of oblivion. A single misstep in the fog, and the mountain would take you forever. They lived like this not hundreds of years ago, but into the early 2000s, a life measured not by hours or minutes on a clock, but by the changing of the tides and the mercy of the wind. Today, a tunnel finally pierces the mountain, a dark concrete artery connecting Gásadalur to the modern world. You can drive there in 10 minutes, but the quiet remains. The memory of that absolute isolation is woven into the DNA of the people here. It makes them resilient, and it makes them deeply, undeniably connected to one another. There is a saying on these islands: the weather changes every 5 minutes. It is not a joke, it is a warning. You can experience blinding snow, brilliant sunshine, a torrential downpour, and thick fog, all on the short walk to your mailbox. There is no such thing as bad weather, the locals say. Only bad clothing. The weather is the ultimate conversation starter, but more importantly, it is the ultimate dictator of plans. You do not schedule a fishing trip for next Thursday. You go when the ocean allows it. If the inter-island ferry is cancelled because the swells are too high, you do not complain. You stay put. You drink coffee. You wait. You learn to surrender control to the sky. And in that surrender, there is a strange, quiet peace. Faroe. In the Old Norse tongue, the name translates to the islands of sheep, and it is entirely fitting. There are more sheep here than human beings. Over 70,000 of them, roaming free across the Emerald Mountains. They are fearless, clinging to impossible inclines, and grazing calmly on the very edge of 400-meter drops. For centuries, these animals were the absolute difference between survival and starvation. Their wool, rich in natural lanolin oils, kept the freezing damp out. It was spun into thick, heavy sweaters that saved the lives of fishermen out on the icy waters. Their meat sustained families through the suffocating darkness of the long Nordic winter. Because here, nothing grows easily. You cannot plant vast fields of golden wheat. The topsoil is incredibly thin, and the relentless salt spray kills most crops before they can sprout. Potatoes and rhubarb are the only things stubborn enough to survive the dirt. So you must preserve everything, and you must prepare for the dark months. Walk through any Faroese village, and you will see small wooden sheds attached to the houses called Gásadalur. The sides of these sheds are slatted, allowing the cold, salty ocean wind to blow directly through them. Inside, legs of mutton hang from the wooden rafters for months. They are not smoked, they are not salted, they are simply wind-dried by the brutal, freezing Atlantic air. This ancient process creates a meat called skirpikjot. It has a pungent, deeply fermented taste that outsiders often cannot stomach, sharp, complex, and intensely earthy. But to a Faroe Islander, it is the ultimate taste of home. It is the taste of centuries of survival. The wind is their oven, the salt is their spice, the cold is their preservation. The Faroe Islander is a shepherd of the steep cliffs, but more than that, they are hunters of the deep dark. To survive on rocks with almost no arable land, you must cast your gaze to the water. Fishing is not just an industry here, it is the very bloodline of the culture. Men have lost their lives to these waters for 1,000 years, swallowed by the gray depths, leaving behind weeping widows, fatherless children, and empty harbors. In the small, moss-covered village graveyards, you will find countless stones dedicated to men whose bodies were never returned by the sea. The ocean here is black, deep, and impossibly violent, with underwater currents that pull with the strength of 100 rivers. Yet, generation after generation, the men go out, small wooden boats pitching violently in the massive swells, casting lines into the abyss for cod, haddock, and halibut. The ocean gives them everything they have, but it takes exactly what it wants. There are legends born from this perilous relationship with the sea, stories passed down in the dark of winter to explain the unexplainable. On the island of Kalsoy stands a beautiful, haunting statue of a woman emerging from a seal skin. She is Kopakonan, the seal woman. Ancient folklore says that seals were once human beings who voluntarily sought death in the ocean. Once a year on the 13th night, they are allowed to step onto the shore, shed their skins, and dance as humans in the moonlight. The legend tells of a local farmer who stole a beautiful seal woman's skin, forcing her to marry him and live on the land. For years, she lived in sorrow, staring out at the sea, until one day she found her hidden skin and escaped back into the dark waves, leaving everything behind. It is a tragic, beautiful story, but it is more than just a fairy tale. It is a reflection of the Faroese soul, a deep psychological acknowledgement of the ocean's irresistible pull and its underlying cruelty. Imagine standing on the westernmost island of Mykinds. In the brief summer months, it is a vibrant paradise. Hundreds of thousands of seabirds, including the iconic colorful puffin, blanket the grassy cliffs, making the sky literally black with beating wings. But when winter comes, the birds leave, the tourists vanish, and the true harsh reality of Mykinds reveals itself. Only a handful of people live here year-round. The sea around the island becomes so treacherous that the ferry cannot safely dock for weeks, sometimes months at a time. Helicopters try to bring essential supplies, but in thick winter fog, they too are permanently grounded. The people of Mykinds must be completely, flawlessly self-reliant. If the power generator fails, they fix it in the dark. If someone gets sick, they rely on basic medical training and a radio call to a doctor miles away. They sit in their warm homes and watch the massive waves crash against the cliffs outside, sending sea spray hundreds of feet into the air, covering their windows in a thick, blinding layer of salt. They are marooned on a tiny rock at the very end of the world. And yet, if you ask them if they want to leave, they will smile, look at the ocean, and slowly shake their heads. As the year marches toward December, the light begins to die. The winter in the Faroes is not just cold, it is overwhelmingly dark. At the winter solstice, the sun barely scrapes the horizon. It rises around 10 in the morning, casting long, dramatic shadows, and by 2 in the afternoon, the world is swallowed by blackness once again. 4 hours of twilight, 20 hours of absolute night. For months on end, in a modern metropolis, silence and darkness are viewed as terrifying. We fill our nights with blinding neon lights, glowing television screens, and the constant, anxious hum of traffic. Here, silence is the default state of the universe. But if you listen closely, it is not empty. It is filled with the rhythmic roar of the surf, the rattling of the glass window panes, and the deep, echoing hum of the wind sweeping through the valleys. It is a silence that strips away all distractions, forcing you to listen to your own thoughts. For many outsiders, this level of isolation and persistent darkness is suffocating. It breaks people. Without the constant distraction of sirens, billboards, and endless crowds, you are left entirely alone with yourself. But for the Faroese, this isolation is a forge. It creates a unique, powerful type of human warmth. When the storms roll in, when the ferries stop running and the helicopters are grounded, the community turns inward. This is when the ancient traditions come alive. In the long, freezing winter nights, the people gather in wooden community halls. They clear the floor and they link arms, shoulder to shoulder, forming a massive, unbroken circle. They do not dance to instruments. There are no guitars or drums. They dance only to the rhythm of their own voices. It is the traditional Faroese chain dance. They sing ancient ballads, epic tales of mythical heroes, terrifying trolls, and legendary Viking kings. Some of these songs have hundreds of verses, memorized and passed down entirely by word of mouth for a millennium. As the story builds, the singing grows louder. The stomping of their feet shakes the wooden floorboards, and the chanting voices rise above the howling wind outside. They hold on to each other physically, a living, breathing chain of human connection in the face of the dark, violent nature outside their doors. When the world outside is cold and unforgiving, the fire inside the community must burn twice as bright. Because of this, doors are rarely locked here. If you are walking along a lonely road in the rain, a passing stranger will always offer you a ride. If your car breaks down in the fog, the nearest farmhouse will open its doors, offering you hot coffee, dried meat, and a dry place to sit by the heater. They have a specific word for this cultural phenomenon: heimablidni, home hospitality. But it is not just politeness or good manners. It is a deep-seated survival mechanism. If a neighbor's sheep wanders too close to a cliff edge, the entire village works together to save it with ropes. If a sudden storm tears the turf roof from an elderly woman's home, the men of the village gather at dawn to repair it before the next rain. You cannot survive the end of the world alone. You survive it together. But make no mistake, The modern world is pressing in on these ancient rocks. The Faroese are not living in the past, and they are not museum exhibits. They are absolute masters of adapting to the future, while fiercely guarding their history. Beneath the treacherous, deep waters of the fjords, massive subsea tunnels have been blasted straight through the volcanic bedrock. One of these tunnels even contains the world's first underwater roundabout, illuminated by ethereal blue and green lights. Driving through it feels like passing through a portal to another dimension. These engineering marvels have changed everything. Journeys between islands that used to take a perilous, day-long ferry ride, completely dependent on the weather, are now a smooth 10-minute drive beneath the ocean floor. Teenagers living in centuries-old turf-roofed houses sit inside with gigabit high-speed internet, playing video games in real time with people in Tokyo, London, and New York. The absolute isolation of the past is slowly being punctured. For a long time, globalization was a threat. The youth left the islands. They packed their bags and went to Copenhagen, to Oslo, to London for university. They sought the bright lights, the endless options, and the big cities, and they never came back. The population was steadily shrinking, and the remote villages were aging, turning into ghost towns. But recently, a remarkable shift has happened. The youth are returning. They went out into the loud, crowded, fast-paced world, and they finally realized what they had left behind. They are returning to the wind, to the rain, to the tight-knit communities. They are bringing back modern businesses, sustainable tourism models, and brilliant new ideas. But they are choosing to raise their children on the edge of the cliffs. Why? Because we live in an era of overwhelming hyperconnection. We can speak to anyone, anywhere, at any given second. We are bombarded with thousands of pieces of information before we even get out of bed. And yet, modern society has never felt more fractured, more anxious, more terribly alone. The Faroe Islands challenge our modern, digital definition of what it actually means to be connected. Here, separated by miles of treacherous, boiling water, living on jagged fragments of rock, people are deeply, physically anchored. They are tethered to the changing of the seasons, tethered to the land, tethered to the people, standing right next to them. They know the ancient names of the mountains that shadow their homes. They know the shifting moods of the sea that feeds them. They remember what the rest of the modern world has slowly forgotten. To live at the edge of the world is not to escape life. It is not running away. It is turning around and meeting life face to face. Without the digital filters, without the endless distractions, without the manufactured noise that drowns out our own humanity. Just the biting, salty wind, the unyielding black rock, the endless, rolling water, and the quiet, enduring strength of the human spirit. Out here in the dark, listening to the ocean breathe against the cliffs, the world is exactly as it was always meant to be.